Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zoom Into Wine. It's time for the show and your host, Ian Blackburn.
All right, good evening, everybody. So excited to have you here tonight. Thank you for joining me. This is the Stars of Napa finale. I can't believe it. It's been such a fun ride, and I really enjoy having each of you guys on our Zoom, and hope that you guys will come back and see us again. We do a lot of activities at Zoom Into Wine, as well as Learn About Wine with our classes. But the Zoom Into Wine activities will continue every Wednesday and every Saturday. And we've got some really fun stuff, including tonight. I'll let you preview into our next Stars events, the Stars of Italy. And we've got 12 great producers zooming in from Italy, from Barolo, from Chianti, from Montalcino, from areas north, south, east, west. It's going to be a really fun gathering. But tonight, it's almost, I'm almost sad this is coming to an end because it's been so much fun. 28 wineries with the great Napa Valley, California's most distinguished wine region, and a lot of fun. So I'm really happy you're all here to enjoy this last flight with us. Let's see who we have in the room. And Steve, how are you? Good to see you, sir. I know we're up early here tonight in our flight. Lisa Test, thanks for joining us in Santa Monica. Catherine Voigt, hi. Elizabeth, I'm so happy to see you. I just saw you in the movie premiere of A Perfect Vintage. That was a beautiful film. A new film for you guys to look out for. The Sonoma Film Festival starts next Wednesday, and quite an accomplished movie is going to be premiering there called A Perfect Vintage. It's about the 13 vintage, and Elizabeth stars in that as one of the winemakers being featured. Hi, Rick. How are you, sir? Glad you could join us. Mm-hmm. Patrick and Brianna, where are you guys zooming in from? I caught you with your mouth full. Sorry. No.
We're in Sacramento.
All right. Did the wine make it to you okay?
It did.
Awesome. We've had quite a hard week with our delivery service, and there's a number of people watching the video after because their wine's still out there somewhere.
Oh, shoot.
But we did get it all out on time. It's just, we pour these samples, these are poured fresh, and they're only good for so many days. And we even built in a little bit of a lead time getting them out on Thursday. Some of you may have received them on Friday, and that was because they're missing so many deliveries that we wanted them to have 2 shots at getting them to you, and 2 might not have been enough. But we thank you guys for your patience. And let's see, we got Christy and Erica and really fun groups. Stacy Emerson is here with the Napa Valley Vintners. I'm going to highlight you, Stacy, so we can talk for a minute about what's happening with the Napa Valley Vintners. Thanks for sponsoring our event and getting all these great wineries together with us.
Well, and thank you so much, Ian. It's been a wonderful, time the last 2 weeks. My first experience with Learn About Wine, and I just think it's so fantastic. And on behalf of Napa Valley Vintners, I want to welcome everybody tonight. We're super excited about your interest in learning more about our region's wines. As Ian mentioned, my name is Stacy. I'm the trade marketing manager for Napa Valley Vintners. The Vintners is a membership organization of nearly 550 member wineries dedicated to enhance, promote, and protect the region, along with all the wonderful wines produced here. Super excited about the great lineup of Napa Valley's wines tonight, all our vintners on the call. I don't want to take too much time up, but I do want to let your audience know that we have a wonderful resource available to consumers that was launched at the end of last year. This is our brand new consumer website. It's the URL is www.napavalley.wine. So we're not going with the .com moniker any longer. So we're doing .wine. It's a very stunningly visual website, but it's also extremely rich in content available for consumers to be able to peruse and learn more about the appellations, the varietals grown throughout the valley, to learn more about our member wineries. And it's really a great hub for you to go to for your planning on your next visit to Napa Valley. If anyone is wondering, Napa Valley is open. We are looking forward to welcoming folks back as soon as possible. So if you are planning your next trip, please check out our winery map and trip planner on napavalley.wine. You'll be able to research destinations you want to visit, wineries you'd like to check out, restaurants possibly you would like to eat at, and you can simply peruse our themed itineraries as well. So you really can't go wrong with anything that you're planning to do within the Napa Valley. And that's about it. Again, I want to thank you for joining us for this final Stars of Napa Valley, and I hope you enjoy our wines tonight with our vintners. Cheers.
I'm having so much fun with this website, and
isn't it cool?
Yeah, I just added like 3 wineries to go visit, and you can pop up your map and see where they're located. My brother's on the Zoom tonight, and he's famous for, picking one winery in the northern part of Napa, and then the next winery is down the south, and then the next winery is back up in the north. And so it'll help him a lot, and everybody else too.
Yes.
And with a single click, you can get right to their websites and make the visitation requests and set up the appointments, all that stuff. It's just super fantastic. So good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun building this event, and we've worked with some great people, including my friend Greg Gura, who's now on the screen. Greg has been with us for, I always forget Greg because it makes me feel really old when I start to realize how long have we been doing this? Like 15 years, 16, 17? I think it's about 15 years.
13 years.
13
So yeah, thank you again for having Children's Hospital in Los Angeles part of this event. First and foremost, Ian, I just have to say, unfortunately, I'm not going to be on the event the whole night. In Las Vegas right now, flying back to LA at 8:30 tonight. But I'll be in the chat boxes, putting links to all the great items that we have up for auction. 50 plus items, 20 great bottles of wine from our wineries. Emily just bid on a very cool Tony Hawk item that we have up there. And so all night, check out the auction. We still have seven bottles of wine that don't have bids. And what we like to do is start off the bids at 50% off retail. So if you're going to go out buying wine, if you're going to give a gift, this is the way to do it.
Yep. And Greg has been really, really instrumental in helping us keep this super simple, getting the money straight to the charity. And we focused on children's cancer research for a long time, and it's been a really wonderful relationship. So thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Ian.
I just wanted, before we get into tasting wine, just say again, it's been a thrill and a privilege to put this together. It also keeps my team hopping and skipping, and it wouldn't be right for me not to thank my team of experts who have really came together. We've got designers in different parts of the US. Now that we don't have to work in LA anymore, I've got designers in Indianapolis, and I've got designers in Northern California. One of them's on the Zoom tonight. Alicia is in the office, and she filled about 2,200 jars with wine. And she's also been instrumental in getting the shipments out and all of our trade work. And Gabby with all of her work in the office, and the full team. So it's been a joy and a privilege. So thank you very much. And with that, let's get started with wine number 1, Cuvaison. And our guest tonight is presented by Steve Rogstad, who is the winemaker. And Steve, I just saw the Wine Spectator give you a big 93-point score for one of your Cabernet projects. So congratulations. Steve, are you frozen? I see you there. I think he just disappeared. Did he just disappear? Uh-oh. Let's see. Well, we've got plenty to talk about until Steve gets his way back on here, but I think he was frozen.
How about your shaved head?
What do you think of that, dude? What do you think of the dome?
The dome's looking good, brother.
Oh man, yeah, I had to shave it last week, so I got a little bit of fuzz back in time, but it was glowing a little bit this week.
I like it, brother.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, you know, I got the hair just doesn't want to grow like it used to.
Yeah, growing grapes instead, man.
Thanks, dude. That's my brother. I was waiting for a comment about that. I didn't tell him. Steve, did we get you back yet? Let's get the subject off of my hair.
I'm back. It was
How you doing, Steve?
I'm good.
All right, good to have you. We're going to spotlight you now and welcome you. Steve, I was saying I saw on the Wine Spectator today, you got a nice 93 score on one of your Cabernet projects. Congratulations, that's cool.
Thank you.
Tonight we're tasting Cuvaison. And am I saying it correctly?
Cuvaison, that's right.
All right, tell us all about it, baby.
All right, well, so Cuvaison was founded in 1969 when there were about 28 wineries in Napa Valley. And they really found who they were themselves in 1979 when the family that owns Cuvaison purchased the winery and a vineyard. Well, it wasn't a vineyard then, but some open land in Los Carneros, which is the southernmost end of Napa Valley. It's that AVA that sits right on top of San Pablo Bay, and it's where you grow Chardonnay and Pinot Noir if you're in Napa Valley. So this vineyard was founded in 1979, and we produce this wine and all of the Cuvaison wines 100% from this estate. Really, most of the vineyard is planted to Chardonnay. It's in that kind of really great Goldilocks region of Carneros, where the Mayacamas Mountains tumble down into the bay. So it's a very hilly site with lots of different aspects and exposures and different soil depths. So it really allows us to kind of tease out the differences in the different clones that we grow there and different selections, which are all fermented independently, made uniquely into wines into the cellar, and then blended together to make this wine. And our focus at Cuvaison has always been to make a vineyard-driven Chardonnay. So we try to rein in the winemaking signatures. Although it's 100% oak fermented, it's only in about 20 to 25% new oak. It does not go completely through malolactic fermentation. And we make an effort to control the malolactic so it doesn't produce an overt buttery character. What we're really looking for is an attenuation of the acidity and a wine that really showcases the fruit that comes from this estate, which to us is always a gorgeous kind of blend of stone fruit and citrus, with some nice floral elements like acacia blossom and orange blossom that you get on the nose. So that's really the focus of Cuvaison. So this is a photo of the estate. If you're seeing this now, this is sitting in our tasting room on the deck and looking across, and you see that sort of pillowy looking hill in the background. That's called Milliken Peak, and that is the separation between Los Carneros and the Mount Veeder appellation. So if you go 400 feet up that hill, you're suddenly into the Mount Veeder appellation, and it climbs up towards Sequoia from there over about 10 to 15 miles. So this is really kind of at the north central side of the Los Carneros district, if you will. Gorgeous property. As you can see, Los Carneros is it's really the first AVA that straddled a political boundary. And what I mean is it's both in Napa and Sonoma County. And it was really the first AVA that was founded less on politics and more on the science of the place. So there was a lot of research done on the topography, the soils, the geology, the geography, and the marine influence of this site to delineate what the boundaries would be of Los Carneros. And there you see it there. And you can kind of notice from the topography that a lot of the Sonoma side is lower elevation. It's the floodplain of Sonoma Creek. And it's predominantly planted to Chardonnay until you get over into these hills on the very west side. Whereas Napa is quite hilly, and it's a very good mix of both Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And then some other varieties as well that do well in Los Carneros, such as Swirl and Sauvignon Blanc, for example. Really a great place to grow wine, and we love this appellation. And we produce Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, a little bit of Sauvignon Blanc, and a tiny amount of Syrah and Merlot. But really the main focus is Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Here's a map of the vineyard that kind of lays out the different blocks and parcels, soil types within the vineyard. So it looks like a big patchwork quilt, if you will. I mean, it's like a tiny little appellation in its own right. If you go over here onto the kind of eastern side of the property, it's very flat, close to Carneros Creek. It's the coldest part of the vineyard. We only grow Chardonnay down there. And then you get up into the hills and you have an opportunity to play with some different varieties as well up on these slopes.
Cool. All right, so using your chat box, send me the answer to this trivia question. How many sub-appellations are in the Napa Valley?
Right now, I believe there are.
Don't answer that. Don't answer that. Don't answer.
Sorry.
I'm asking everybody else. Give me a little. Give me a chat answer of your guess. How many sub-appellations? We got answers are coming in. Stacy, I need you to confirm with me. Are we still the same number we were a year ago?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, can you confirm that is 16?
You are spot on.
Okay.
16. See, I missed one.
We crowded 16. I don't think anybody got 16, but we had 15, 17, 18. There are a number of appellations potentially being applied for, and that number will grow. But that's Napa's basically 16 little places kind of patchwork together to create the Napa Valley wine appellation. So the next trivia question is, of all the wine made in the state of California, what percentage of the wine is from the Napa Valley? Steve, I'm just using your beautiful maps and questions to fill the conversation block there with our guests. And we are getting guesses at all levels. And a lot of people are surprised to see, that the real answer is about 4%, right, Stacy? Yeah, it's about 4%.
That's right.
It's a really high premium spot. It's 30% of the dollars of California wine, but it's about 4% of the supply. And Napa Valley wines, they pay more for the land. They pay more to the privilege of growing there, and then they charge more for the wines, but they are our most premium growing region, and it's very recognizable. And so very, very cool. Squeeze that in there. Thank you, Steve. Let's go back to your beautiful PowerPoint and continue the conversation over this beautiful Chardonnay. And Steve, can I ask you, as we're tasting it too, what price point are we at here?
So our estate Chardonnay sells for $26 a bottle, and then we also produce a number of small lot and micro lot fermentations from the vineyard that range up to around $70 a bottle. But this label, which is the classic Cuvaison arch label, we make 3 wines under this package. It's the estate Chardonnay, estate Pinot, and estate Sauvignon Blanc, and these are what you will find out in the marketplace most readily.
That's a solid value, $26. Really good price point. All right. Can you see our PowerPoint? And I'm going to click on to your wine tasting note, and let's talk about what we're smelling in the glass here.
All right, so 2018, Chardonnay 18 was a really gorgeous season particularly for Burgundy varieties. A long, cool growing season with a kind of more normal harvest date than we'd been seeing. We had this long kind of drought period from about 2012 to 16, 17, where it seemed like the vintages were beginning earlier and somewhat warmer years. And then in 18, it kind of all shifted back and we had a nice, gorgeous growing season. Harvest didn't start for us until September 15th, which is what I would consider normal, but it had become sort of late by recent standards. And one of the nice things about that is, every wine growing region has its soft underbelly, the things that can go wrong. It might be frosts in the spring or hail in the summer or something along those lines. For me, in our part of California, I think the biggest concern for us is always heat spells at harvest time. And so the later the harvest is, the more likely we're going to get through that kind of heat spiky period and get into where we can really sort of calmly and slowly bring in the fruit under really great conditions. And that's what happened in 2018. It really holds on to the acidity of the grape and allows the winemaker a little freer hand in what they do with the wine in the cellar. So gorgeous vintage. Again, this is all hand harvested. It goes direct to press into the press. And what I mean is we don't crush the grapes; they go directly into the press, as whole clusters, and then the juice is expressed and goes down to barrel and spends about 10 to 11 months in barrel before bottling. And some of these blocks that you saw in the previous map will go through malolactic fermentation. Some of them will not. It's really based on both the vintage and my sense of what the acidity needs to be in the wine when we get to the end.
A little bit of lees stirring there.
Yes, we do a batonnage of the barrels, particularly the ones that are going through malolactic, to kind of help encourage that. But the lees contact helps kind of enrich the wine and to find out some of the bitter compounds naturally. So it's a really nice way to sort of fill in the mid palate of the wine and give it that kind of more luxurious mouthfeel.
Yeah, I can feel just a little bit of that tactile, leesy contact, and it's really a beautiful version. Does anybody have any questions about what Steve has just talked about there? We hear winemakers talk about all this stuff, and does any of that strike any questions? You could always put it in the chat. I'll read it to them if you're not comfortable, but
I think there was a question about what yeast are you using. I use a lot of native yeast, which means I don't add yeast all the time. But we do some trials with yeast strains as well. We're very fortunate in this particular site to have very, very nice natural yeast strains. So what I'm really actually more interested in is what bacteria are going to do the malolactic fermentation. Because as I mentioned, I'm really trying to avoid a buttery imprint on the wine. And often the natural California bacteria produce a lot of that buttery character. So I often use bacteria that comes from France to kind of control that.
Is there a fancy name for it?
No, they usually odd numbers like MTO1 and but they're an Enococcus, basically. Somebody asked about the acreage. The whole estate is about 392 acres, but of that, only about 180 are planted.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Steve. We appreciate it. That's a beautiful way to start off our night.
Thank you.
Cheers to you and to everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Cheers.
We get that going on.
All right.
Well, I hope. Did you get all the wines to taste? They arrived.
Unfortunately, no, mine did not arrive. So
Didn't make it. All right.
Yeah.
One down, one to go. 6 more to go. We'll find out if our winemakers got it, because somebody up in Napa Valley did not show up for work at GLS. That's for sure.
yes.
So we're not here to endorse them, but tonight they're on our doghouse list. But
yeah, it's unfortunate. I use them a lot to ship wine, and they're usually pretty reliable. But
you would think that they would take care of the wineries. That's how they got started. They were literally started as a wine shipping company.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, not a good face this week. But we thank you very much. The wine is gorgeous for those that got it, and I think a lot of people did here. We're coming up to strength. We're going to have over 70 people on the Zoom by the time we're done tonight. And it's a sold out event. So thank you very much. And
thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. We're going to now talk with Anthony Truchard Vineyards. I saw your face, Anthony. Where are you, buddy? There you are, bud. Let me spotlight you.
I'm right here.
All right. Thank you so much. There you are. Good to see you.
Having us.
I was really excited to be able to taste your wine, because you're the only Pinot Noir that we're showing this in the last 2 weeks, and so it's really nice. Tonight it's a really unique set of wines, because we start off with a Chardonnay, and that is our first Chardonnay that we've tasted from Napa in this program. And now we're moving into a beautiful Pinot, and we're going to go in through a series of Cabernets and blends, and just a really wonderful showcase of talent tonight. So Mr. Truchard, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ian. Yeah, we kind of planned it that way. I know when it's ever a Napa tasting, we always bring our Pinot. We do make a Cabernet, but it's kind of nice to change it up, and especially when you're doing 6 or 7 wines, it's nice to have something different. So we thought that we'd throw in our Pinot Noir, and Steve mimicked a lot of what I was going to say, because our winery is just about probably 2.5 miles north of our vineyards are about 2.5 miles north of Steve's in Cuvaison. And there's portions of our vineyard where you can look down and see Cuvaison. So we share a lot of that similarity, a lot of that cool breeze, clay soils, and those hillsides as well. So we have a lot of Pinot Noir planted on our property. And a little of the history about how we got started here in Canaris. So it was back in the early 70s. My family had grown grapes in France back in the 1800s. When phylloxera devastated a lot of those European vineyards, they decided to come to America, and they actually started a winery about an hour west of Houston, Texas, back in 1888.
Wow.
Yeah, not I promise this is a Napa Pinot Noir, not a Texas Pinot Noir. That did not fare so well. Heat, humidity, and then prohibition was kind of that final nail in the coffin. But my father grew up on the old farm, and it still had some abandoned vines and that abandoned winery as well. But like most kids that grow up on a farm, myself included, the first thing that happens when you turn 18 is find any way to get off the farm and see the world and do something else. So my father actually joined the Army and got stationed out here in California in the early 70s. And that's when he saw Napa and really fell in love with it. Coming straight out of the Army, didn't have a lot of money. And at that time, Canaris, this is back in 72, 73, as Steve had said, we're the southern portion, and you saw on that map. So some of the first properties that we looked at were, up in Rutherford and Oakville. But in the 70s, even those were fairly expensive for the time. And so we were one of the early vineyards to come down into Canaris, and we started planting in 74. So we started with 20 acres of an abandoned prune orchard, planted that to Chard, Pinot, Cabernet, Cabernet Franc, and Merlot. And then from there, we've kind of expanded out. Now we have about 400 acres, 270 are planted with grapes. And for those of you that haven't had Truchard wines before tonight, I guarantee everybody on this Zoom call has had our grapes, because we're a fairly small winery, but we sell a lot of our grapes to other wineries throughout Napa Valley. Some of our big customers are Frogsleaf, Nickel & Nickel, ZD, Duckhorn, Mondavi. So we're a big source of a lot of the Napa names. And then about 31 years ago, we started making our own wines in 1989. And so, yeah. And our emphasis has always been on putting the vineyards first. So the wines don't have a lot of oak. They got a lot of freshness. That's also a kind of telltale sign of Canaras, is wines that are fresh and bright because of that cool climate.
We've got the picture of the Truchard Pinot on the screen, and it's really expressive in the glass. Just a beautiful, spicy. It's got so much aromatic Pinot content. You know, it checks all the boxes. The brown spices, that soft cherry, that sense of brown spice.
Again, I wanted to say thank you. I got my wines.
Yeah.
And, I've done several of these group winemaker calls, and you're the first one generous enough to send wines to the winemakers. A lot of times we're sitting there with only our wine, and it's a little frustrating because people think like we don't care about wine other than our own. We actually love tasting other people's wine. So thank you very much, because it was fun tasting with. I've tasted Steve's wines many times because he's neighbors, but some of these other wines are relatively new to me as well. So I'm excited about trying them. So thank you, and I'm glad that I received my wines.
Yeah, well, it was our intention. Our intentions were good to get them to everybody, but
no, well, thank you. That was very generous. I wanted to talk a little bit about the old block. So we have 12 different varieties of grapes on our property. We're one of the more diverse estates. So the picture that Ian just put up right here, this is actually one of our Merlot vineyards looking north into Mayacamas. This was last week during a really rainy day. And so you're looking at Merlot here, and then across is Pinot Noir on the other hillside there. But we have 12 different varieties on the property. Part of that is because the property is large and it has these rolling hills. But then another dramatic part of the property is this fault line that runs through and really separating Canaras from the rest of Napa Valley. So Canaras, more marine sediment, clay, kind of dense soils, preserves the acidity, a lot of freshness in the wine. The northern eastern part of our property is volcanic, more like Mount Veeder, rocky, really well drained, and that's where we put stuff like Cabernet, Syrah, Roussanne, Zinfandel, some of these late ripening varieties. And so we make 12 different wines. We make 2 Pinots. We make our estate Pinot, which is a blend of about 12 sections throughout the property. And then tonight we wanted to showcase our old block Pinot. And this was something fun, that it was a wine that kind of made itself more out of economic necessity, because this was one of those original plantings of 1974. And as the vines get older, they start producing less and less grapes each year. So these vines now are 47 years old, and they're only putting out a half a ton to acre, 3/4 of a ton per acre. And so obviously, normally we're getting about 2 or 3 times that. We're getting 2.5 tons for our Pinot Noir per acre. And so this is, almost a fifth of a good vintage. So every year we're sitting there, and my dad's still managing the farm, and he goes, we got to take that old block out. It's just not justifying it anymore. And then every year we sit down and we're putting the blends together. We pick up the glass and we're like, this wine's so good. Like, we don't want to take it out one more year, and we'll keep it. And back in 2011, we decided, what we can do? We can bottle it separate because it's so good, and, charge just a little extra to kind of help subsidize these lower yields. And so you kind of value ourselves on keeping our wines very economically priced. And, we want people to be able to drink our wines on a daily basis. But a wine like this is something that we had to charge a little more because the yields were just so much lower. It's an old Martini block. When I say Martini, it was the clone that Louis Martini brought over here and cultivated, and we've loved it. It's got, like Ian was saying, it's got these really great aromatics. You kind of get this framboise, a little bit of cherry. One of the other things I love about the old block is the texture and the mouthfeel. The amazing thing about the old block is that every vintage is good. 2011 was a challenging vintage. It was a great vintage. What happens is, because these old vines have these really deep root mass underground, you're able to kind of tolerate heat, drought, or wet years, because the vine, it has so much surface area underground that it kind of moves its energy and carbohydrates to where it needs to, rather than the young vines that kind of just take up the nutrients that are right there. And so almost like an older person, a more mature person, it's able it's not affected by its environment as much. It's a little bit more stable, and it doesn't show the stresses of a dry year or a wet year, or nor does the yields fluctuate as much. You know, on a year that's really generous, it may give 3 tons or 3/4 of a ton an acre. On a lighter year, a 1/2 ton an acre. While some of our younger vines, they'll go from 3 tons an acre in one year to 1 ton an acre in another year. So these old vines just have a lot more kind of stability, and then they give you kind of the sweetness on the palate. Even though it's fermented 100% dry, you get this nice sweetness from kind of having a lot of that carbohydrate mass underground.
There's a really nice plushness and depth, and you know, there's just buku Pinot flavor there, and I really love this wine. It's great. It's $65, and you can buy it straight from the Truchard website tonight. We're going to send out an email at the end of the evening with a special offer from all the wineries. If you're not in a position where you can buy wine at this moment, just join their mailing list. They would love to know that you're interested. And if you're on the mailing list and you go to make an appointment, you probably get a little bit of extra priority. So just think of it that way too. It's really good to be on the mailing list and to establish a relationship with these guys. That we're moving into a new era. You know, you're going to need appointments when you go to the Napa Valley in the future, not only just from a virus standpoint. You know, there's only so many visits that these guys can have, and they want to prioritize their wine club and wine members. So be cognizant of that. That is what makes the world go around for the wineries. So Tony, thank you very much, and let's get some Cabernet in our glass with Sequoia Grove. And our host tonight is Rick Batant. It's winemaker's Molly Hill, but Rick Bonatati.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
nice Napolitan Naples name. How are you, Ian?
good, sir. Thank you so much for being on the Zoom with us tonight.
Well, thank you. I'm really proud and honored to be here, to see all the faces out there, and really being able to connect with everyone out there. Thanks for having us as part of the event. Thank you, Stacy, for making the arrangements for us.
Well, I have a special relationship with Sequoia Grove. I used to work for co-brand for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I used to hang out with the Allens there, and I even had I had a post, I don't know what you call it. I guess it was a reception, but it was a Mike's. Remember my party in the pool at the old Sequoia Grove?
I did have a good time there.
Unfortunately, the pool is now part of the vineyards.
I don't remember a lot of it.
It's about half of your life, buddy. Come on. Well, Rick, thank you. Tell us what's going on at Sequoia, and I'm going to give you the floor now. We're going to get some Cabernet in our glass.
Yeah, I just say, unfortunately, my wines didn't make it, so I was so much looking forward to enjoying Steve's Chardonnay and Tony's Pinot. But I have to make sure I stop by those wineries and taste some. But well, Sequoia Grove was founded in, Ian talked about Jim Allen. So was founded in 1979. Jim and his wife, Barbara, had traveled Europe extensively, and their dream was to produce great Bordeaux wines out of California like they tasted in Bordeaux. And Jim had met the iconic winemaker, Andrei Chelichev, in the late 60s and early 70s, and they formed a relationship. And Andrei Chelichev said, if you're going to make great Cabernet at that time, you need to be in Rutherford. So Jim and Barbara set their sights on Rutherford, and they were able to find a 25-acre property that actually had been planted way back in 1865. Was the first time it was planted to grapes. So they purchased the property in 79. Jim and his brother Steve Allen started planting in 79. And then they had the bonded winery in 1980. And what really kind of catapulted Sequoia Grove was in 1988, It was recognized as California as the finest California Cabernet and got voted Winery of the Year. So around that same time, Ian mentioned a company called Co-Brand. So Co-Brand is an import company that started post-Prohibition, and the founder of Co-Brand, Rudy Koff, met Jim Allen, and they formed a relationship. They formed a partnership. And so the Kopp family started investing in the winery. And then when Jim came to retirement in early 2000s, the transfer of ownership occurred to the Kopp family and is still owned today by the Kopp family. So we're really rooted in our past of the history of Napa Valley. The tasting room there, which was the original winery, was a barn that was built in the 1900s on the property. So, but really what our focus now is into the future. We went through over a $15 million renovation on the property with us for state-of-the-art winemaking facility, a new hospitality area where we started a wine and fruit program. So really our next chapter in the winery really began about 4 years ago. But really the center and the heart of Sequoia Grove is Rutherford. So Rutherford being the appellation right in between Oakville and St. Helena. And it's about a 6 square mile appellation. It is the widest area of Napa Valley. And you'll see here is Sequoia Grove Winery. You'll see that's Highway 29. And that's the original Sequoia Grove property. Then over to the right is a property that we acquired back, a very historic property that's right next to one of the original BV properties. And that was originally planted in right before Prohibition, but that's called the Tanella Vineyard. So we farmed about 75 acres within Rutherford. We are certified Napa Valley Green Land and Napa Valley Green Winery. And but the core of the wine that you'll taste tonight, about 60% of the fruit comes from Rutherford, about 40% of it comes from these properties here. But we have long-term relationships with growers for over 30 years. So we source from over 11 of the 16 appellations through Napa Valley. We produce about 14 different wines, many single vineyard wines, but the wine tonight is our 2018 Napa Valley Cabernet. And in that wine is blended about 9 of the 16 appellations. So we, not only is the core Rutherford, and one of the things I'll mention about Rutherford, what's so special is we still get some of that cooling influence from San Pablo Bay in Rutherford. So we get the warm days and we get some cooler nights. We get very even ripening. And people talk about the Rutherford dust. And what they mean by that is really those fine grained tannins that we get through that climate there. So you'll see we're kind of right in between the Vaca range on the right, and then you'll see the Mayacamas range on the left. But we source fruit from beginning in the north with Calistoga, Howell Mountain, St. Helena, as we head further south, Oak Knoll, Atlas Peak, and Coombsville. So in this Napa Valley Cabernet you'll taste tonight, we kind of say this is a reflection of Napa Valley in the glass, because we get the different flavor characteristics from the regions, some of that red fruit from Rutherford, a little bit of that darker fruit and structure from some of the mountain areas like Atlas Peak and Howell Mountain, some dark blackberry and boysenberry from St. Helena. So lots of layers in this wine. We also, this wine is 83% Cabernet Sauvignon. Molly, our winemaker, just loves to blend Cabernet Franc and our Cabernet Sauvignon. So there's about 8% Cabernet Franc, about 8% Merlot, and about 1% Petit Verdot.
Sorry, I didn't pick up on your cues to change the slides there, Rick. I was a little focused on the wine myself. But super delicious. And it really sounds like you got the responsibility now of this new winemaking facility to really take Sequoia Grove to the next level. And that's pretty exciting. Because I remember when I was there that you'd walk in and Jim had beer on tap to get you started. That was the old story about Jim.
Yeah. So, but now we've got wine and food pairings. Although, well, let's say as soon as we can open indoors, we have an educational. If the folks there have an opportunity to visit, we have what we call our terroir tasting. So our chef Brittany is really walking through an exploration of really non-traditional pairings with Cabernet Sauvignon. You know, she'll pair fish. She'll do different things with like a deconstructed taco or things like that. So really fun things with Cabernet and Bordeaux varieties. You know, we do produce Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc, but really is trying to educate and really have fun with different ways to pair Cabernet with food than just kind of the traditional red meats.
Thank you. The wine is showing beautifully.
Thank you. Yeah. So we're really excited to be here tonight and just excited to share our wines with all the guests out there. And thank you for having us here.
It's cool. And this bottle that's being shown on the slide here, is this a special like reserve or something?
Yeah, this is a wine that we call Cambium. This is a Bordeaux blend. This is kind of what we call our icon wine. But the name comes from Cambium, and this is what we named our new kind of room where we do our wine and food pairings. The Cambium is the first layer in from the bark on the vine or the tree. That's the living layer. So it gives all the lifeblood and really the being to the vine as well as the Sequoia tree. So actually, it's funny, the name came up with, we had a naming party with some pizza and some beer and some wine, and one of our tasting room manager, Vicky, who's still there, came up with the name. So, but that's, yeah, that's our Bordeaux blend that we sell direct through the tasting room or through our wine club or mailing list.
Well, I'm going to have to get up and see the new facility. It sounds really exciting. And
yeah, we'd love to host you, and all the guests on the Zoom here, we'd love to host you at the property. Love to see you there.
Great. Well, thank you for enlightening us there. And that's the wine is showing really well. And this is a relative value, $50 a bottle. Molly's been there for a while. She's doing a great job. The wine is drinking just so nicely.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Molly's been there for 15 years. So she's been a great part of the history of the winery.
Very cool. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
We have a question.
Cheers to everyone.
We have a question for you. Let me pull up the, let me stop the share here and pull up our chat box and see. Let's see here.
I thought I saw something there about Rutherford, I think.
Oh, Kent. Hi, Kent. You were asking about Rutherford dust. What is the story there?
Yeah, so that name really comes from, as I mentioned, we still get that influence from the San Pablo Bay for some of those cool nights. So we get those warm days and those cool nights. And so between the soil that we have, the alluvial soil, and that temperature, it lends itself to very fine grained tannins. And so that's when people talk about the Rutherford dust. You can taste kind of those really fine grain tannins, where in some of the hillsides or mountain regions, you'll get a little bit more, powerful tannins, which we do blend into here, but Rutherford is kind of known for those silky, kind of fine-grained tannins.
Renee Lapp said that when they went to your winery, it was the best food and wine pairing that they had in the Napa Valley.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you, Renee. We love that. Please, whoever can come, please, we'd love to host you.
Very nice. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much. Drinking good. I'm starting to relax now. Feel a little groove going on here, and just want to check in with some of you. Some of you have been with us for all 4 nights, so hopefully you don't have to take a wine holiday after this at all. But I see so we have some dinner parties happening tonight. I know Jessica has a little dinner party out there with her friends. I got little jars all over the table. Bob Blummer's on the Zoom tonight. And hi there. How you doing, Liz? Good to see you. And David Kay's got Maria probably doing some, David, are you doing some studying tonight? You've got the...
That's all I've been doing for the last week and a half. Level 3 is a beast. So yeah, I'm writing notes. I'm loving this. And Rick, we have to get up there. We spent a lot of time at Carneros at the Orchard, and we gotta go and see you over there, because I can't wait till we get a chance to see the taste of food and do the wine pairing.
We love to. We hope we can get that going again in April.
Yeah, I know Steve Tonella too, and I know that vineyard, and it's that area. I just love it.
Cool. And Terry Kamali, how are you guys? You got a little group action going on there. Good to see you all.
I do. There. We're one meeting.
I got you.
Yeah.
Hi.
We're gonna have remote control right now, so because we're all so far away from the computer. Thank you. These are delicious so far. Looking forward to the rest. Super delicious.
Great. Vanessa and Dwayne, where are you guys zooming in from tonight?
Napa.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Cool. Are you winemakers up there?
No, definitely not. He's an electrician.
All right.
And I'm in the industry, but I'm not a winemaker whatsoever.
Oh, cool. Glad you could join us tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Cool. Well, our number 4 winery tonight is Jayson by Pahlmeyer, and it's going to be featuring Lindsay Liebman, or do we have, is Lindsay here or is it Jennifer?
Lindsay's here, but Katie is going to be presenting because she's the winemaker.
All right, Katie. I was wondering if we've got a lot of names here. I'm sorry that was not Katie, but thank you for having the winemaker join us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This has been great. I've loved all the questions on the chat. It's always fun to see passionate and engaged consumers. That's like a winemaker's dream. So keep the questions coming. I'll try and keep mine. I can multitask and see when they pop up. But hi, I'm Katie Vogt. I am the winemaker for Pahlmeyer and Jayson. And I'm here to talk about our Jayson Red Blend. We'll get our PowerPoint up and running. I'll just give you guys like a fair warning too. I have a 14-week lab puppy, and she's very content right now with the chew, but that tends to go out the door the second the microphone becomes unmuted. So if you see me yelling no, it's because she's going after a cord or something like that. But
we'll have to bring the puppy up when she comes by a little bit later, because
yeah, she'll love that.
no significant Zoom fails to have a dog or a puppy or a cat. Last night we had cats, by the way.
Yeah, she's doing good right now, so we'll see how long this lasts. So Jayson by Pahlmeyer. So Pahlmeyer was founded in 1986 by Jayson Pahlmeyer, and he was going after the dream of making a California Mouton. So really targeting what was happening in Bordeaux and trying to replicate that on a bigger, grander, more California style level. So that project started, like I said, in 1986. And then in 1992, he decided, hey, this is going really well. Let's start a second label. So we started Jayson by Pahlmeyer. And Jayson by Pahlmeyer is different style than our traditional Pahlmeyer wines. We make a Sauvignon Blanc, Cabernet, a red blend. For the wine club, we do a little bit of Pinot. So these wines are a little bit more approachable, a little more budget friendly for everyday drinking. These are the wines that we're hoping people are opening up on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, and pairing with something delicious for dinner. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, if you want to go to the next slide. We could go to the next slide. You don't need my bio. So let's talk a little bit about how we make wine. So mostly what we're sourcing is out of the Vaca range. So if you look at the map in the bottom left corner, maybe you can kind of highlight where the Vaca range runs.
I'll go back. Sorry, I tried to click and it didn't open.
That's okay.
Okay, Vaca.
Yeah, so a lot of the winemakers on this call have talked about, specific AVAs that they're sourcing from. We're less AVA specific and more mountain fruit specific. And we tend to gravitate towards this Vaca range. And we like it because it gives us power, concentration. We're sourcing from lots of different ranches in that area, a few estate vineyards, a few outside growers. And really what we're looking for is fruit that will have a long hang time, lots of flavor development, lots of concentration, big tannins, really just looking for something that is distinct and powerful. And we find that in the Vaca range. Most of our vineyards live just right above the fog line. So we get lots of opportunity to have sunlight on those grapes, sunlight on those leaves, lots of great ripening potential. One of our estate ranches, Stagecoach, it's so rocky. It's similar to what happens in areas of France. The rocks actually radiate heat up into the vines. So we end up seeing an earlier ripening and a really, really intense flavor development at some of those high spots on that ranch. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Anything where we can get those intense flavors, and anywhere that we can kind of find that typically is in the mountain area. So we kind of say we're mountain fruit rather than AVA specific. And so the wine that we're showing today, we're showing the Jayson Red Blend. And I'm really glad we're showing this wine. I figured this is Stars of Napa. There's going to be a lot of Cabernet. So we decided to do the Red Blend. And this blend focuses on Merlot. That's obviously a huge part of it. It's the core, 70%. And I like to describe this as Merlot at its fullest potential. So when you get to blend, when you have the opportunity to bring in other varieties, you get to fill in holes. So if you have a Merlot that is fresh and soft and maybe has some leather, tobacco, plum type characters, and you want to build it up a little bit, you want to give it some tannin, you want to give it some structure. Maybe you bring in Cabernet, maybe you bring in a little bit of Petit Syrah. So I love making this wine. I like being able to blend. I like seeing how different varieties interact with each other. And I like putting together something that takes the core, which is that Merlot, and really makes it shine and really kind of fills in any gaps it might have. And the Jayson wines in particular, I really like to make because we stay very traditional with Pahlmeyer. We are Bordeaux varieties. We're, I mentioned kind of going towards the California Mouton. There's a little bit more freedom with Jayson. So like you can see in this blend, I brought in a little bit of Zinfandel and a little bit of Petit Syrah. It's not typically what we would do for a Pahlmeyer wine, but for Jayson, have a little bit more leeway to do that. And it really just made this wine fresher and brighter and jammier.
Well, it's drinking great. It's got a really soft, plush, approachable balanced style. And I think when I think of Jayson, this is kind of exactly what I'm expecting. And we're looking at a wine that's around $60 here. And like you said, it's kind of the wine that you don't have to sweat bullets to open. What is the full throttle Pahlmeyer selling for these days? What is that?
I think 220 maybe.
Yeah.
You'll have to, don't quote me on that. I can't afford it, so I don't know. Yeah, the Jayson wines are, like you said, they're fruitier. They're kind of meant to be, drank a little earlier, maybe not cellared for 10 plus years. And we do some different things to those wines. We might ferment a little bit warmer. That tends to make things jammier and fruitier. We'll take it off skins a little earlier just to keep that tannin a little more manageable. And the oak impact's a little bit lighter here. So you're getting something that is just a little more approachable out the gate. I mean, this is a 2018, so still really fresh, really approachable, really ready to drink right now. And that's kind of what we're after.
And it's mostly Merlot most years?
Yeah, Merlot tends to be the core. I think there's even been, we just bottled the 2019, and I'm pretty sure I could have labeled it a Merlot that had even more Merlot in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got Kent was asking if there's a pretty big difference in the blend each year, but the core that all you're doing is decorating it with a little bit of kiss of Zin, a kiss of Petit, a kiss of this, a kiss of that. Just gives it a little bit more dimension, a little bit more layers and character, right?
Yeah, exactly. And every vintage deals you a different hand. So, for example, I'm gonna skip talking about 2020. Let's go further back. Let's go to 2019. 2019 was a pretty phenomenal vintage. And we were able to keep the Merlot on the vine for a very long time. It was very ripe, really intense flavor, really dark. And then there's years maybe back to 2015 where we had some, not so great set in Merlot and Cabernet, and the wines were a little bit greener. So we might want to bring in something like Petit Syrah in a vintage like that to kind of augment what it's lacking. So that's kind of the fun part of blending, the fun part and the challenging part, but mostly the fun part.
Cool. We got some other comments here. Let's see. We've got a few requests for the dog.
Oh, let me get her.
Yeah.
This is Olive.
Right. Oh, wow.
This is Olive Bean. She's got a chew in her mouth over here. Yeah, here she goes.
Cool.
Yeah, she's loud.
Last night we had a Jayson Kiever on the Zoom, and he was literally standing about 10 feet away from his cat because it's like a new cat that they got, and the cat obviously does not like men. And, so I kind of ebbed him on. I said we'd donate a little money to the charity if he would pick up the cat. But that was a beautiful little dog there. We love dogs to visit. So if any of you else have a dog you want to share, please feel inclined. And wonderful to meet you, Catherine. I haven't met you in person before, but we look forward to seeing you again soon. And Lindsay, thank you very much for arranging all this. It's great to taste your wine. It's so delicious. And we're gonna have to talk about that wine, Lindsay. I'm excited to taste this wine. It's just I'm looking for some Merlot for a project, so that'll be a really good fun thing to use. So Catherine, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Cool. Any other questions, gang? How are you doing, Megan?
Hey everybody, I'm doing well. Thanks. How are you?
Outstanding.
Good, good.
Cool. We got Marilyn. Where are you sitting at tonight?
I'm at home in my. Are you talking to me?
Oh, go ahead, Megan. Where are you at?
I'm at home in my office in Santa Rosa.
Awesome.
Russian River Valley. Yeah.
Russian River. Oh, cool. And Marilyn, where are you sitting at?
I am in Agora Hills, where I was last night while we were drinking.
And what's going on that wall behind you? You a collector of is that
There's a
Garfield?
little bit of everything. My husband worked in the toy industry, so there are lots of toys behind me, but there are 2 shelves of Star Trek memorabilia because I am a Star Trek crazy person.
Wow, we've got actual Star Trek like producers and directors on some of our Zooms. Sometimes I can't call any of them out here tonight, but some that are working on the TV show are some of our supporters, and that's nice.
Yeah, I love it. Big sci-fi fan.
Very cool. David K, have you ever done a Star Trek thing?
No, I haven't, but I'm hooked on the new series, and I can't stop watching it. It's so freaking good. Sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah,
David does the voice work on a lot of TV shows, and I can tell by that amazing voice of his, he's on a lot of really amazing stuff. So I know you don't like me to promote you, David, so.
That's okay, thank you.
Well, Catherine, thank you so much. Wonderful to taste your wine. We'll be moving on now to wine number 5 and Chimney Rock. And Elizabeth, it's your time. Let's go.
Hello.
How are you now?
I'm doing great. How's everybody doing?
Really, really well. Thank you so much.
So fun. You're so humble, Ian. By the way, everybody, Ian is in this movie, A Perfect Vintage. If you didn't know that, he actually has quite an important role in it. So you must see it.
Well, I was really flattered to be included. We shot that quite a while ago.
I know.
And I've done a lot of different TV and movie stuff, and a lot of it ends up on the cutting room floor. I usually, if I'm in something, someone says, "Ian, I saw your face." Oh yeah, I remember that. But this one, they actually used quite a bit of me, so it was kind of flattered by that. It's kind of a beautiful film. Beautiful.
It really is. Yeah, agree.
So
it's kind of a love letter to Napa Valley and kind of the art of winemaking, and it really is beautifully done. So highly recommend it.
Yeah, and we're gonna have those guys on a Zoom with us next Wednesday, so it's a good time to plug them. We're actually doing, because next Wednesday is the debut of the Sonoma Film Festival, so you'll be able to watch it through their portal, and so they said the 24th, and I said, well, on the 24th I'm doing a tasting of port wine, and we're doing a comparative tasting between 02 and 03 vintages, and Colheita and Ruby, and I said, I think we can work that conversation around and really, have fun with it. And then, Chris Sawyer could talk about opening an envelope. So we'll have fun with Chris as well, being on the Zoom. We sent him support, and we've got some of the production team on them. So you might want to join us on the 24th for a night of Colheita versus vintage port, and to take a look at this beautiful film. And it's called A Perfect Vintage, and it's not available anywhere yet. It's only on the movies, on this kind of this circuit of being shown, and hopefully, I guess the hope is that a company like Netflix or Amazon or somebody like that will buy it and make it available to show. But for right now, it's just collecting awards and getting shown in private screenings. And so it's doing really well. It's got a lot of medals and awards already. So, and as I've seen it, it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous film. Really, it's kind of made for the wine geek as well.
Totally.
Yeah. So let's do what we came here to do, which is talk about your wine. Because, I mean, I think, you know, I don't know how many of you guys have. I kind of grew up with Chimney Rock. I was a buyer at a little restaurant in downtown LA back in the early 1990s, and Chimney Rock was, you know, I think we had a vertical at Chimney Rock for years, and this is a very important, like, you know, foundation brand. Yeah.
Yeah, I would totally agree. We've you know, we've been around since 1979 is when Stella and Hack Wilson property and invested in it. It was a very serendipitous time to find a spot in the district, right? Just 3 years after the Paris, which was so significant in making Napa Valley a well-known region in the world. And I have to like raise a glass also to Steven Spurrier. I saw you and Marcus did yesterday, and he was just such an important figure for, you know, the making of Napa Valley wines abroad, and the understanding that this was a serious wine region. So I got to meet him, and it was sad to see him go. But anyway, Stella and Hack had lived in South Africa for many, many years. And you can see the architecture is actually Cape Dutch architecture, which is typical of South African wineries. So they brought a little piece of their past to Napa Valley. The production building, which is the building to the right in that slide, is actually inspired by Groot Constantia, which is one of the oldest wineries in South Africa. And then the tasting room, which is the building on the left, was actually inspired by Meer Lust. So if you go to Stellenbosch or Franschhoek anytime in your wine travels, you will see everything looks like Chimney Rock, which is sort of funny. Anyway, so they stumbled upon this 180-acre property and planted some vines, and our first vintage was 1984. I came to Chimney Rock about 20 years ago now, which is crazy. It'll be 20 years in January. And I always like to tell people a little bit about how I ended up making wine. That's always a fascinating story, right? I had graduated from Vassar College, was on a pre-med track, was going to go to medical school, living in New York, working in a hospital, and suddenly I fell in love with wine madly enough to decide that I would apply for the graduate program at UC Davis and leave medicine behind. That was a fun conversation with my parents, but it all turned out well. Anyway, my dream from that moment was to make Cabernet Sauvignon, and I got very, very lucky. My second internship in the wine industry when I was a graduate student at Davis was at Chimney Rock in 1999, and worked with Doug Fletcher at the time, who was kind of the second winemaker at the estate and had done all the planting of the first, actually all of the estate. So we have about 105 acres in Stag's Leap District. Now, when I came along, Hack and Stella, Hack had just passed away, and they had kind of, actually, you know, well, let's talk about the AVA a little bit, right? We'll go in a different order. So I think one of the funnest things about Napa Valley are these kind of microclimates, right? And Stag's Leap is pretty unique, pretty tiny, 3 miles long, 1 mile wide. There's only 17 wineries in the area, 1,300 planted acres. And the first AVA to be designated after Napa Valley in 1989. So really important, and again, really important because of the Paris tasting of, I think, 1976. It really showed that there was something distinct about this area for Cabernet Sauvignon. And I think the there of Stag's Leap, if you look at the picture behind me, you can see the looming Palisades over the Vaca Mountains. And it's, you know, Stag's Leap has the the trifecta of climate, geography, geology, which is this amazing reflective heat that come from those Palisades, the remarkable soils, old volcanic soils on this side of the valley that are super well drained. And then we get this tremendous cooling. We're at the southeast corner of Napa, and we have this tremendous cooling we really get hit by that San Pablo Bay cooling. Stays cooler in the morning, cools down sooner in the evenings. And I think you definitely see, and particularly in the wine that we're going to taste today, 2018, the sort of more of a cool climate Cabernet personality within Napa Valley. So whereas I think other AVAs might be jammier and sort of riper, in Stag's Leap, there's always going to be a little bit of herbal, a little bit of that je ne sais quoi that comes from kind of, cooler climate. So let's move on to the next slide, kind of go back to my my timeline. So Stella and Hack had passed away. They had actually formed a partnership with the Torlado family. And the Torlado family actually became full owners in 2004. They are a multi-generation wine family. They'd been in the business for generations, both in retail, importing, distributing. And in '96, you guys met Marisa Taylor last night. She spoke about Rutherford Hill, which was the first winery they purchased. Chimney Rock was the second. They then went on to purchase Sanford Winery, and they've now actually invested a little bit in both Friuli in Italy, as well as Red Mountain Clipson Vineyard up in Washington State. So they've really kind of broadened their mark in producing wine as well. Now the Torlados brought some serious commitment to quality, and I was there before the family took over and after, and they really made an investment in the facility and in the vineyards. They planted the last 50 acres that were plantable on the estate and built a brand new winery facility, which is behind this building that you see in this picture. Tony has since passed away. We lost him in 2020, and he is sort of the driving force and just an incredibly inspiring human being who I had the privilege of tasting with and dining with, and who really was one of my great mentors. And, they really believed in this site in Chimney Rock, and they really wanted to bring it to its full potential. So they really, they went the full mile. We can go on to the next slide, a little bit of our timeline. So this is kind of a map of our estate, and you can really see here, so we're about half mile from the north end of the property to the south end. So from that Ganymede Vineyard and Clone 4 all the way to Tomahawk on the south end. And there's a real diversity of topography as well as microclimates on the estate, which make it really fun to make Cabernet on this estate. The north end is a little bit warmer, so you get more of that typical jammy fruit, riper. The hillsides are quite powerful because soils are really shallow there. You're getting really tiny berries. And then you get to the south end where you got South Hill, Alpine, and Tomahawk. And here it's more old world personality almost. You're really starting to get more into that red fruit, pencil lead, beautiful dried herbs, tobacco leaf. And so the estate cab, which you guys are drinking today, is actually what I call the ambassador to our estate, because it's a blend of all of these blocks together. And taking this diversity, I think of microclimates, really creates a wine that's quite complex and that has a lot to say. I'll tell you a little bit more about the vintage in just a minute, but what I love the most about working with this place, and it's been a 20-year discovery journey really, because when I started, we weren't doing single vineyards, and it sort of was something that evolved naturally as we made wine on the property that, wow, this Ganymede is really, really unique. And, White Pebble, Cardiac Hill, which is a hillside, they're all super different. So we make about 8 single vineyard Cabernets. And this wine that you have in front of you basically combines all of them into a symphony. I think of this wine as kind of a symphony, multiple layers, lots to say. So I think it's almost time to talk about the wine. We'll go through to the next slide. Just tell you a little bit, some of our core values. Sustainability is leading at Chimney Rock. We've been leaders for many, many years. We've been solar since 11. We irrigate with recycled water. Sustainability and leaving the land in the state that we've found it when we started the property is really important to the family and to my whole team. So I think that's a really important thing and I think Napa Valley actually, Napa Valley was very critical. Napa Valley Vintners and the foundation of Napa Green. And I think they really have been leaders on that front in the world. So really proud to be a part of that organization. So let's move on to the next. And I think it's about almost time to talk about wine. This is just a little shot of my team. I think the element of terroir that nobody talks about is people. And, you have climate, soil, geography, but the people behind a wine are so important. And that goes all the way from ownership, the Trelato family, who have this commitment to quality, to, me and my cellar guys who have such passion for this site and expressing its best face every year. I have the gift of having a team that's been with me for a long time. So we just love the place. And you can see a couple of shots here. We night harvest. Attention to quality at Chimney Rock is, just critical. We harvest things. Sometimes, I'll harvest 2 rows separately because it's a little bit different. So the attention to detail that goes both into farming, crafting our wines, as well as blending, like all of Napa Valley, it is just a place of extraordinary wine. So let's talk about the wine. Let's drink. Our 2018, so I have a nickname for every vintage that is usually musically related. I love music, I'm a musician, and 2017 was Fire and Rain. And this one, it's a little play on Miles Davis' Birth of the Cool. This is Rebirth of the Cool, 2018. And the reason is we had this, slew of warm vintages, 13, 14, 15, 16 was a little cooler, 17 got warm again. 18 was like the old fashioned harvest we used to have long ago. We didn't start picking cab until mid-October, didn't finish until early November. And so I love myself a cool vintage in Napa. There's a freshness and the acidity is vibrant. And what I remember about this harvest was picking every block exactly when we wanted to pick the fruit. Everything came in just perfect state, just gorgeous vintage. One of those gifts. So when we taste this wine, you're going to see that it definitely has, some of that beautiful black fruit that comes from the north end of the estate, some black cherry, some cassis, but there's unmistakably some beautiful herbal tones here as well. Yeah, I just get some dried sage. I get a lot of dried sage from that area as well. And this wine is a blend, by the way. Our estate cab, because it's a blend of what we grow on the estate, and we're planted about 80% Cabernet, 12% Merlot. We've got a little Cab Franc, a little Petit Verdot. So this wine is 75% Cabernet Sauvignon, 23% Merlot, 1% Cab Franc, 1% Petit Verdot. And if you were to ask me what the there of Stag's Leap Cabernet is, I would say it's all about the texture. So, that heat that gets trapped on the Palisades allows us to really get ripeness on the tannins. And they're super, super silky. I would almost say you could denote them as feminine cabs, and I don't mean that in a negative way at all. There's grace and power, but also this really beautiful acidity. These wines really have the muscle to age between acidity and kind of structure.
There's something very unique about Stag's Leap being presented here. Getting a little bit of feedback. So I might need to unmute yourself, Elizabeth. But yeah, there's definitely the Stag Leap mentioned in the nose, this rocky minerality, and also your touch on the wine, which I do feel is really important to note, because some Stag's Leap producers are really powerful and tannic, and you've done a really beautiful job here of knitting together and kind of controlling the amount of tannin and the way it's presented and the persistence of that tannin. It's just a really wonderful expression, and I think it's a beautiful wine.
Thank you. Yeah, our goal really, I feel like winemakers in some ways we're not artists. We are translators. We should be telling the tale of a vineyard. That's really my objective, to tell the most, to portray the most, honest picture of a vintage and the vineyard. So in a cool year, you will see cool climate characteristics in our Cabernet. In a hot year, you'll see that. This wine should transport you to a time and a place. That's how I see, what we do. We really, we're really just a medium between the vineyard and, wine lovers. That's how I see it.
Well, what is our finished alcohol on this one? 14.5. It's just got such wonderful balance, and it seems like we'll really age at a very graceful pace. But it's an 18, and it's showing so well. It's so welcoming now, and so that's what I think. The definition of a balanced wine is that it really allows you to enjoy it now, and will just have a wonderful time in the cellars, kind of aging gracefully.
Yep, exactly. And just a little information on the oak that we use. I'm a little underhanded on the use of oak here. So this is only getting 50% new French oak. The balance is used French oak. So I really want the fruit to sing. I want you guys to see vintage effect. I want you to see the fruit. We work so hard at growing beautiful fruit. Let's not mask it with too much French oak.
Sure. And I think that also shows itself, is that it's not the first thing you smell in the wine. It's definitely, that rocky notion. What kind of stony minerality is that? Can you narrow it down to just like a soil or a rock type? I mean, you're in certain parts of the world and you get granite, you get schist, you get slate. Is there like one type of stone that is Stag's Leap?
I'm not even sure, but I think there's definitely some granite. There are very rocky soils, both at the very south end and on those hillsides. And if you think about the entire Stag's Leap, even the part that you don't see the outcroppings, that's all bedrock, So I think it just shows in the wine. There's definitely, you see some of that kind of. Yeah, I mean, I have to use the term minerality. I see what you say.
Yeah, and last night we had Stag's Leap producer on, and we were also talking about Stephen Spurrier, because Warren Warnowski was the winemaker at Stag's Leap Wine Cellars in 1976. The 73 vintage was presented at the Paris competition. And, the movie Bottle Shock kind of promoted Chateau Montelena winning the Chardonnay, but at that same exact competition, the Stag's Leap Cabernet won. And that event really put Napa Valley on the world wine map and became a really important thing for people to talk about. I mean, it was a really interesting story of how that all developed, but that was Stephen Spurrier's idea. And he was a wine merchant in Paris and wanted to sell some Napa Valley wines there. So he wanted to include a few. And it was just amazing how profound that that impact had on the business and on the Napa Valley. And so it's one thing stacked on top of another, one chimney rock stacked on another. It just keeps adding up to where we are today. So thank you for showing this gorgeous wine. Retail on this wine is at $100.
It is $100 bottle. Yes, it is.
Fantastic. And there you go, everybody. Thank you very much. Beautiful
Thank you so much, everyone.
We are moving on to wine number 6, and I want to present to you Megan.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Megan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. We're running a little long, and I'm sorry that I keep you, but I'm being a little more verbose tonight.
Yeah, no worries. It's really meaningful for me to be here tonight to represent Geodesy Wines. I'm Megan Bassetich. I'm the winemaker for Geodesy. I guess, we're different for 2 reasons. We're a brand new brand out in the market. 2016 was our inaugural vintage, and you're tasting the 2018 Cabernet Sauvignon tonight. We are tiny production from only estate vineyards, and we do have estates up in Willamette Valley where we produce Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, as well as this Sage Ridge estate in Napa Valley. And we produce 2 wines from this estate, a Cabernet Sauvignon, again, you're tasting the 2018 tonight, and a proprietary red Bordeaux blend. We make just a few barrels of each of these wines, and our total production is only a few hundred cases. So yeah, on the first map, you can see where this Sage Ridge Vineyard is located. And Ian, if you could, is your cursor showing up? Yeah. Point to Lake Hennessy there, if you can.
Lake Hennessy.
That's Lake Berryessa.
Where's Hennessy? Is this Hennessy?
Yeah, that's Hennessy. And then just east of Hennessy is Pritchard Hill.
Okay.
You can see on the topo on that map, Sage Canyon. So we're one ridge over from Pritchard Hill, overlooking Pritchard Hill and Lake Hennessy. So it's a really spectacular site. These vineyards are owned by an iconic woman winemaker, Judy Jordan. Judy founded and owned Jay Vineyards and Winery for 30 years. And when Judy sold Jay in 2015, she dedicated her time and resources to creating a foundation for advancing the next generation of women in the agricultural community. She calls it the WG Edge, Women Gaining Edge. And the goal, again, is to advance young women and increase their ability to impact and become leaders in the ag community. She has created a network of women leaders who inspire, guide, and open doors for the young women in the program. 100% of the profits from the sale of Geodesy Wine go into the foundation. So I was introduced to Geodesy, well, before it was even Geodesy, when there were simply 3 vineyards that Judy had purchased. And she has a vineyard manager named Scott Zapataki. I worked at Pahlmeyer Winery as the director of winemaking for 10 years. With Scott Zapataki there as the director of vineyards. So we collaborated very closely together. And Scott wanted to kind of tour me on this new project that he was working. So he brought me out to Sage Ridge, and this view that you're seeing now is insane. This is my kid in a candy store type of moment. Just going out to the vineyard for the first time, driving, up this very windy, narrow, steep driveway, and then you arrive and you're just at the top of the world. Just the most spectacular views. The vineyard literally looks like a patchwork quilt. There's over 50 blocks here, all 5 Bordeaux varietals, varying soils. We have some sedimentary soils on the site, which is nice that it's not all volcanic soils. So we do get a beautifully polished tannin off of certain blocks of the vineyard. So we have a lot of different clones of Cabernet. Again, just like an embarrassment of riches, if you will, working with this site. So I saw the vineyard. I knew I had to get my hands on some of the fruit. You know, it seemed to me like this site had amazing kind of untapped potential. It's a 600-acre estate with about 60 acres under vine. So you can see just how rugged, dynamic, mountainous, challenging it is to farm. Let's see, if you go on to the next slide. So that's how we, you know, make a vineyard tour. I think Scott is pretending to be on a walkie-talkie right at the moment, or maybe he's talking to Nasario, our vineyard foreman, who we also worked with at Paul Hobbs. He's a close friend of mine as well. So we've got Scott there, myself, my dog Rio. We don't have a tasting room, but if you're an adventurous type, you can send me an email, and this is kind of what we would do, is take that mule out and go see the vineyard. So the vineyard is at 1,400 feet of elevation. It actually ranges from 800 to 1,400 feet. There's madrone trees, pine, sagebrush, a lot of different just native plant species. It's unique because of those sedimentary soils. So it has some soils that are more similar to the valley floor, but it is at altitude. We have a very long growing season, which is great for hang time and phenolic maturity, which I think provides the texture and the polish to the wine that you're tasting. I think we get a lot of UV light being at altitude, which I think helps to thicken the skins and add just depth and, again, structure and texture to the final wine. 2018, I think, was a relatively large crop on the valley floor. Another benefit of being at altitude is that the vines are struggling, and they do tend to self-regulate their crop size and their crop load. We're using a very small amount of the fruit for the Geodesy program, and we're selling the rest of it to other vintners like Russell Bevan, Donald Patz, a bunch, Kimberly Thatcher with Morgado Cellars. So we can talk about the winemaking. So here's a tiny cluster of Cabernet Sauvignon that happens to be a block of 337 that was used in this blend. Everything's handpicked at night, hand sorted, fermented separately by block in really small tanks or in barrels. Native yeast fermentations, 30 to 35 days on average in tank. So just trying for like peak extraction. We have a basket press that we go directly into new French oak barrels. We do use 100% new French oak on this wine, and it's aged for about 20 months before bottling.
Wow, this was quite a discovery for me. I really appreciate you showing off this beautiful wine tonight. And I love the expression you used, embarrassment of riches. What a beautiful singular place, and it really kind of shows that off in the nose of the wine. There's something so elegant and focused about it, and really great definition as well. So you're doing a wonderful job on the wine.
Thank you. Yeah, the goal for the style, I mean, I do want to be peak ripe and express some of that fruit density I think that Napa Valley is famous for, but I do still want a very fresh wine. I think texture is everything, so I'll kind of mirror some of Elizabeth's remarks on those things. And then just, balanced acidity, a lot of savory or kind of herbal components, in addition to that beautiful fruit profile. So yeah, a lot of really wonderful things to source from at that vineyard. Having 5 Bordeaux varietals, this Cabernet Sauvignon, this bottling does have 3% Petit Verdot and 2% Cabernet Franc, 95% Cabernet Sauvignon. We bottle a proprietary red blend from the property as well, and that's 100% fermented in barrel, as the picture you saw. And that will have some Malbec as well.
Well, I don't always plan, things like, sometimes you guys just make me look really good. Let me just put it that way, because we started off our Cabernet Big Red experience tonight with Sequoia Grove, made by Molly. Then we went to Jayson, made by another female winemaker. Then we went to Chimney Rock, made by Elizabeth. And then we went to your wine, Megan. And so it's Women's Night here in the Napa Valley. And Rick, you represented Molly well. But yeah, we've got some really beautiful expressions of the Napa Valley. And what I love about the Napa Valley is all these wines are, stealing a line from Bottle Shock when he's tasting the wines. He's like, these wines are so good. And they're all like a little different, because everybody's got a little different vineyard and a little different touch and a little different, scale, and yet you're all using amazing insight and making really important decisions, $1 million decisions. And so, this is really, really a fun tasting tonight. And the wines are gorgeous. Your wine is $125 a bottle. How do people buy it? They buy it just directly through the website?
Yeah, just going on to geodesy.com, or, joining the mailing list to learn about when the wines are released, so you can get in and place your order while they're still available is probably the best way to go.
Okay, we need your email address so that we can get up to see you guys. If there's something you can put in the chat box.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. We'll have a lot of fun on that ATV. I promise.
I think you're going to have some takers on that. That sounds like a type of experience everybody needs right about now.
It does sound like social distancing, or at least it's outdoors, and as farm workers, we're vaccinated and whatnot. So yeah, come on out. Right.
Priority in California is to get the wine industry vaccinated. We're all part of the food chain, so it's a good thing. I got my second shot coming up here in about a week. So I thank you so much, Megan. That was beautiful wine. Anybody have any questions at this moment? We got one more very important wine to present. Let me know.
No questions, but another dog for you.
All right.
Aaron's got a dog to show.
Karen.
Aaron.
Where's Aaron?
Show Brumley.
Oh.
Ian.
Yo.
It's Bob and Kate.
Hey, Bob.
Loving this wine, loving all of the wines, loving all of the, just appreciating the differences, all of which are beautiful between these wines, and also the passion from all the winemakers. Such a great night.
Thank you very much. How was your dinner?
Funnily enough, it was quite fabulous, Ian. Thank you.
Cool. You didn't break any bottles tonight, did you?
No. But just out of camera angle, we have just an embarrassment of riches from all of these little samples and bottles that we have tonight. It's great. It's a beautiful night, and beautiful to see it represented by all the women winemakers, and I see that as the future, honestly.
Well, I think there's a lot of people who will agree with you here, Bob. And Bob's been very generous with our Zooms. Bob is a celebrity chef here in Los Angeles. Well, he lives here in Los Angeles, but he's worldwide. Bob Blummer, the Surreal Gourmet Food Network. And I really love working with you, Bob. So thank you for everything you do for us. And so great to have your insights and have you visit our Zoom.
Well, listen, this night it's been epic. It's like one wine after another has been just gorgeous for its own statement. Like they're all my children tonight. Each one has been beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing how they're all really good, but they're all about the unique set of pieces that are all stacked together neatly in their own presentation, and it's just really a wonderful story. So now I'm very pleased to have Lori Shelton, a good friend, on the Zoom tonight. Is Lori and John both on the Zoom? I haven't seen you, Lori, so I want to make sure you're there.
Unmute.
There you are. There you are.
Hey.
I got you.
We're number 7.
Look at you with braces.
I got braces during COVID.
All right. Look at you. I have had so much fun with your brand, and we got to bring people to your beautiful home a few years back when we were able to bring people to Napa Valley. Is that one of your cows?
We are in our new little tasting room and art gallery. So you can come and taste our wine. And
yeah. And you painted that, right?
Yes.
That's incredible.
But Ian, 2013 was our first vintage. We made 85 cases, and Ian bought, I think, our first case. So I have a great gratitude towards you. Now here we are. We've made our 2020 vintage, and so we're super excited. We are probably the smallest vineyard that you have. We made 117 cases in 2017, which you're going to be tasting. And we're very excited. It was a passion project dedicated to my late husband, Tom Shelton, who was 30 years in the wine industry. And we moved onto our property in 1999. David Abreu's son, Rico, was best buddies with my son, Trevor, and he chose the property for Cabernet. And we bought it. And for many years, we sold the grapes to St. Clement. And in 2013, we decided maybe we should make a little bit to dedicate towards Tom's memory. And our daughter, CAMi, was 6 when he passed away. So that's where the name came from. John.
If you don't mind, I just want to share for a second, because Tom Shelton is one of the heroes of my life in wine world. Tom was the general manager of Joseph Phelps Winery, and I was standing on the porch of Joseph Phelps in 1991 when I decided to work in the wine business. And I told that to Tom, and Tom and I when I worked with Co-Brand, we had Joseph Phelps in our portfolio for a while, and got really close to the whole team there. Tom would fly down in his plane to help me do wine events here in Los Angeles. And he was just always the most generous man. And it was just absolutely heartbreaking when he passed away. But I adore everything about him and yourself. And you guys have really created a wonderful legacy project here.
Well, this project wouldn't be happening without this man next to me, who decided to join our team only after he checked out the vineyard with Thomas Rivers Brown to make sure it was of the quality that he would work with, which I've known him since he was a chef. And after our vineyard was approved, we have a 2-acre vineyard with Merlot and Cabernet. And after it was approved, John said he would make our wine. So he's been making it since 2014, and we're so excited. My son Trevor made our label. We have a little poetry, but over this course of time, that's his daughter Poppy, who's just an amazing little gem. And we're just so excited that we get the opportunity to share the quality that comes from the valley floor, and to make the best wine that we can possibly make.
Well,
taste it?
Yeah, let's taste it.
Let's taste it. So, John, we have just over two acres, but our Cabernet is a 337 clone, and our Merlot is a Three Palms vineyard clone from up the street, and we blend them. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, the 2017 is a blend of the Merlot and Cab, was 53% Merlot, 47 Cabernet. They're vinified separately, and we tried different blends, Cab predominant, Merlot dominant. This is more of a kind of a snapshot of the entire property. Starting, I guess we came up with that blend in 2014. It changes a little bit, percentage here and there, year to year, but we kind of find this one, this kind of works for the site in Calistoga. You'll see that in 17, what we're trying to do, like some other winemakers have mentioned, that's Justin, our vineyard manager. Pina farms it. It's see the pictures, Napa green. They do a fantastic job. What you'll see, I don't know, 17 was a pretty warm vintage, but I think it's really lively. I've been checking in on it here before this tasting the last couple of weeks, and I think it's in a really, really great spot. Great aromatics. It did pretty well for a warm year. People think of the fires in 17, but this was picked way before the fire. It was a warm year, but we picked on the early side of September, and I don't know. I get great, still get really great freshness. It's super floral, I usually get rose petal, lavender, but also has a really interesting savory side that I really like. And for me, I know it's good because I'll try it second day if it does make it to day 2. It changes. It gets a little bit richer. The aromatics are still really intense, and the wine's made to age, but it's also made. You can drink it, pop and pour. Also, a good decant helps it. I think it's real versatile. It's a really good food wine. I come from a food background, so for me, it's really important that it could be a standalone for a bit, but it's best drank with food.
When I first met John, he was a sous chef to Hero at Terra.
Oh, wow.
And, time passes, a lot of things happen in our lives. And I knew the Dotzlers, Kathy and Frank. And I was actually doing one of the things that you do, Ian, very well, which is call up and ask for a donation.
Yeah.
So I was calling up to Outpost Winery to ask for a donation to my daughter's school auction. And John answered the phone. I said, John, I need a winemaker. I'm making my wine. And
I'll do it.
Yeah. That's how we got together again, kind of reconnected. And, this valley is a family. And sitting next to us is Shannon Pistoni, who helps me so much. She's like my right-hand girl that I couldn't work without. And, we're a small team here celebrating life and art in the Napa Valley every day. And, we'd love for you to come up. And
Lori, is this the tasting salon that you have here?
Yes.
Wow.
And I missed the gentleman who was the chef. I'd love to invite him. We are just finishing our kitchen. It'll be finished probably the end of April so that we can, do some food and wine.
I'm thinking wine event.
I'm there.
Yes, Bob, I'd love for you to come up and see our new kitchen and
I'm there.
Cook with us some night.
Ian knows how to find me.
Okay.
In fact, he found me this afternoon and came to my house. So
yeah, right.
That's how he knows how to find me. I would love to do that. It'd be a pleasure.
Art, wine, music, food, we're just trying to celebrate all of what Napa Valley really is about.
Art, wine, music, food. I after there's only one thing missing, sex, and that's it. That's everything right there.
Well, some people think this is it, right? Some people think wine is that.
It is a sexy product for sure. And
anyways, I'm in. Just talk to Ian. I'll be there.
let's knock it down. Yeah, it's gorgeous, really cool little spot, and you have the best taste. So I'm just really happy for you to be able to put these things together and to see how things are progressing. The wine is gorgeous.
Our label.
Yeah, I love it. Look at that.
And Judy, I love what Judy's doing. The wine was so great up there. This is really fun, Ian. So thank you.
Well, how cool is it to have, all these amazing females together in one night, and I'm sorry, John, to
and men.
And men.
I live in a house full.
He has 3 daughters in Hawaii. So.
But it's so awesome to be able to pull such a wonderful cross section of the Napa Valley together, and this is just showing so beautifully. And I really get a lot of baker's chocolate off the top of the nose of this wine, don't you think?
It's in one of my notes. That's the baker's chocolate. I get I like the lavender kind of. You get like a little sagebrush, kind of like high chaparral type of dusty quality in there. I think it's mostly vintage. So we're just trying to capture vintage, varietal, and Lori's front yard basically. And it's awesome. We're a little bit of an outlier with all these other places because it's 2.5 acres. We're like a couple, tiny little block in some of these bigger vineyards, but it's farmed really well. We pick it, like I said, hand picked early in the morning, bring it up to outpost. We make it up on the hill, and along with all these other wines and
small barrels. Yeah,
all French oak. I think it's 85-90%, but I think it's well integrated. Doesn't kind of lie on the fruit. You still get the varietal characteristics, and with the blend, depends when you drink it. You'll be more Merlot one time and a little more Cab. Definitely the Cab adds the structure to this kind of plush, real juicy kind of character. The chocolate, I get some blue fruits, some kind of raw meat character from the Merlot.
It's drinking great, and we're at 125 a bottle, and CAMiVineyards.com, and there's offers on all of the wineries, and there's also auction items that you can bid on all these wines. The proceeds going to Children's Hospital, but we want you to support these wineries. We want you to plan your visit, and in fact, I think some of you are ready to go and visit, and they're going to take good care of you up there. Just be careful, and wear your masks and get up there and get some fresh air. And the Napa Valley is ready for you. It's the best time to get up there, like right now before the summertime. It's just magic. So I would encourage you guys to take up all of these wineries on the opportunities to visit them and to make this connection. It's super cool. Erica, everything going well?
Yes, definitely. Tonight's been great. Thank you.
Cool. I haven't seen much chatter between you and your group. Are you guys chatting it up?
We are.
Okay. I think the night 4, you guys have mellowed out a little bit, but I could always tell when you guys were sending messages because 4 or 5 boxes would be laughing. Hector, how are you and Gina doing?
Oh, it's great. I have one word for tonight: sumptuous. It's been delicious. It's been a delicious ride, Ian. Thank you again. Awesome.
Christy, how are you feeling?
Oh, pretty good, thank you.
Christy does all the design for our Learn About Wine website, which is now open. And good to see you on the Zoom. And Alicia's here. And Mark Ferris, it looks like you got the whole family Are you guys watching us too? Are you guys watching something else now? I can't tell. Just looking around. We're coming to the end of a wonderful journey here, and we want to thank you guys. Constance, did everything work out? Sorry, I shorted you guys a set. Did you guys have to share?
We shared, but we managed to make do. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Is that Lee Lewis?
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
How are the wines treating you?
The Geodesy was my favorite tonight, although the CAMi was excellent, and I really enjoyed the Jayson as well. My husband and I are not agreeing on the number one, but that's okay. We all agreed that 4 were really, really, really good, and we want to buy them.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, it's so wonderful to be able to see all your faces. Thank you very much for joining us in this wonderful environment. While Zoom is what we discovered in 2020, I think it really represents a fantastic opportunity to get us together. We used to spend a lot of time building events in fancy hotels and flying people all around. And I'm sure we'll get back to that. But this is just a wonderful place to be able to taste and share, and I hope you guys enjoy, because we're going to plan a bunch of them. We've got a really progressive calendar scheduled, and I'm just going to show you, if I can here, just a second. I'll share the right screen. A couple of things that we've got going on. Wasn't quite that easy, but I'll get there. Here we go. So next Wednesday, right here, is our little port tasting. Tickets are around $50. We'll get you a taste of these ports, or you get a full bottle set for about $100 and be able to join us for our discussion about a perfect vintage. 2 really awesome wines, by the way, 2003 vintage port versus 02 Collita. Then we're going to go to Spain and learn a lot about Mencia and Bursco. And then we'll go down to Santa Clara Wine Valley for a trip with 3 different wineries. And then we're off to Paso, and then we're into Chianti with, this is, by the way, my favorite Chianti producer, 700 years in the business of Chianti. Then we're going to do a little Bordeaux blind tasting, 1989 versus 09. And then an amazing discovery in Pinot Noir, Native 9 with James Ontiveros, just an incredible guy, growing some, he's got 60 acres of Pinot Noir planted on his 6,000 acre ranch that he grows beef and all kinds of amazing things on, Rancho Ontiveros. We'll go up to Monterey, and then here's our next big event. It's the Stars of Italian Wine. And I'm really hoping that clicks through. There we go. And you have to go and visit it on our Learn About Wine site. That's where all of our Zoom events will appear. And this is now on sale. Today's our first day it's up for sale. We have flights, and then we have there's going to be 2 nights, or you could do bottles. If you do the bottles, we can get them to you nice and early. All these winemakers will be featured. Of course, we're in a little different time frame, so we're going to have a video conversation with the owners of these properties, and then we'll have the co-brand sommelier or one of the. Oh, you can't see my screen? Let me fix that. There we go. So this is the Stars of Italian Wine, and we have this kind of before April 1st advantage of being able to get involved here. We've got some awesome producers that are going to be on the Zoom. Some of them will be recorded. Some of them are going to try to make it live, but it's 4 a.m. there. And these are some of the most iconic wines in Italy, and really, really showcasey wines. Wines like Oreno and Croniolo and just really, really cool stuff. And so we'll be announcing Saturday night's presenters, which will be all the producer families. But we've got all the wines on the website right now. It'll continue to develop, and we'll be in Brunello, we'll be down in Tarazi, we'll be over in Vino Noble, we'll be tasting wines from Sicily, we'll be on Sardinia. So it's going to be a fun, eclectic group of wineries from Italy, and that's our next event. And so we hope you guys will join us for Italy, and if not, something else in between. But to our Napa friends, thank you for a big night, a great show, and go up and support these Napa Valley Vintners, join their mailing lists, and bid on the auction site, which the auction is open until tomorrow night. So get in there, make a bid, get outbid if that still raises money for the charity. So we thank you, and we hope you had a good time. Thank you, everybody. Wonderful to see you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you,
Thank
Ian.
you, David.
Awesome
Thank
night.
you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Aaron.
Ian, we brought our friends from Paso tonight.
Cool.
Lyndon and Peggy that was there.
Well, did they get their wine? Because Paso was having a hard time with the wine delivery.
I don't know, but I think so, because we've been chatting, but
They've been texting, but I don't know if they actually got it.
but
They were here.
But
Okay, that's nice. Yeah, I emailed everybody that we were having some problems with, and we provide them with this video. If they didn't get the wine in time, it'll get there tomorrow. But
Lyndon was one of my mentors that when he lived down here in Orange County when I was first getting into wine. So it's all great.
very nice, very nice. Thank you so much for referring us. Wonderful to see you all. Hope you guys have a great night. Bye,
See
Kate.
you, buddy.
Bye.
Good. Good night.
Night.